the Agile brand.
Hello, my friends. This is Bonnie Habyan, and welcome to This Is How She Did It. There are some unbelievable women who've faced big challenges, pushed through fear, and stepped into their worth with grit and authenticity. How? Well, we share it all on This Is How She Did It. You'll hear real stories of persistence, reinvention, and those aha moments that change everything. No fluff, just honest insights and hard-earned lessons from women who refuse to be held back. If you're craving true connection, courage, and practical tips for reshaping your own life or career, you're in the right place because your story isn't over, not even close. Hello there, friends. I am here today to share some big life lessons I learned over the last year, which has spurred me to do something pretty cool. Yeah, rename the show. And today you're going to hear why. And the why is really all about you. You see, it's been about a year. Yeah, it's been about a year since I started this journey of my own show. And here's a couple of facts I want to share. Truth? Harder than I thought. Rewarding? Absolutely more than I thought. Lessons? More than I can ever count. And I'm going to share some of those top ones I've learned today from my year of sitting down with some very amazing women, entrepreneurs and reinventors. Now, these truths and realizations are meant to help you find your me. These lessons and common insights are actually, I would say, very valuable methods, mindsets, and oh my gosh, dozens of mantras that all of these women have shared with me. And I guess you could call them their secret sauces that each and every one of you needs to hear. And that's what I learned over this last year. It's more than to say, hey, let's tell you about what someone did. We want to know how they did it. And I've gained so much confidence from that I really want to give it 100% to you. But listen, here's the thing. All of us as women struggle. Sometimes we look great on the outside, but we're really doubting ourselves in the inside. And the difference lies in what we do with that mindset. Because I really do believe in each and every one of us, each of you, is a soul wanting to succeed and kick butt. I've interviewed a lot of people, over this last year, from a mom with 3 small kids who turned to her husband one day in the 90s and said, you know what, I think I want to become an airline pilot. Okay. And he supported her. And guess what? She did. And she laid the foundation for her daughter to watch her journey and provide her the platform to do the exact same thing, should she wish. And that daughter did. Now, we also spoke with the diva of disaster, Marianne Bruce, a former CEO who escaped 7 brushes with death before screaming uncle after surviving the biggest one to her, which was the miracle in the Hudson. And then she pivoted to redefine and live a truly meaningful life. And she had to kind of talk to us about how that happened, because you just don't one day decide, okay, I'm going to change everything, right? Something has to happen to make you want to make that change. And those 7 brushes with death and that last experience, landing in the miracle on the Hudson, that's what did it. Then I spoke with Marcia Clark. That was probably my dream guest. I've always wanted to speak with her. And so I was kind of pinching myself. Here she was, the lead prosecutor in the biggest criminal case of the century. I don't know about you, but I was glued to that TV set back then. It was definitely on every day. You could watch kind of the drama unfold. And I got to tell you, she was feisty. She just, to me, was such a role model in so many ways. But she taught me a lot when I sat down with her because, she said, the one thing you have to make sure of is that you are not afraid to fail. And goodness gracious, look, she definitely survived and thrived, trailblazed, and reinvented herself. And I think for many of us, failure, we have to look at it differently. It's really just feedback. That's what Marianne Bruce shared as well. So all of these women have something so unique to share with us. And after this last year, I'm seeing that they are bringing us a real formula that we can follow. Now, they say fear, right, is usually that number one dream killer. And they say it rains on our parade like every single time. And I think that's true. But you know what? There's some of my guests who come in and say, embrace that. Or look at things a little differently. I loved when I sat down with one of my favorite products, Hint Water, which is, one of my favorite. I love the peach. Founder Kara Goldin. I've read her book, and just from reading her book and then speaking with her on the show, right away, I saw this crazy persistence, her can-do attitude. And then she had this other kind of unique characteristic where she was simply very, very curious. Very, very curious. And it wasn't like daunted by like challenges, like, oh my goodness, we have to get a bazillion cases to Starbucks by, 2 days, or, oh my goodness, we can't figure out how to have this flavor sustain more than, the usual life shelf of a product. No, she didn't look at that as kind of ending her journey. She looked at it as a challenge, and really it was a very solutions-oriented focus she had, and kind of enjoyed that, right? She didn't look at it as something she couldn't overcome. Now, she was not someone who said fear held her back. In fact, what I saw in Kara was this unique way of looking at some really huge obstacles and finding the power and fun in working around and through them. So she has a gift. And so many of the women I have spoken with from over the country in different walks of life have gifts. And so do you, right? But the one thing I'm seeing is that resilience, the self-discovery and the nuggets for being your best self all have some similar aligned ahas. And each of these women have shared some invaluable lessons, sometimes raw, but I got to tell you, always honest. So that's one of the reasons I'm redefining the show a little bit. Let's rephrase it. It's still the same show, but I'm just kind of making it bigger, bolder, and I think better, right? I'm redefining and I'm digging down and deep. Hence the name change. This is how she did it. Now, this is funny because this was the first title I had floated around when I was starting the show about a year ago. And I think when I look back now, I was probably just a little afraid to niche down. I just wasn't quite sure where the show was going to take me. And of course, sometimes we play it safe. And I said, okay, let's see how things go for the year. But, as I started to look at things where I was coming during the year, that broadness where I started to really kind of get a focus for me. And I was able to kind of take a closer look at the real ways women are approaching that success that we're talking about. I mean, overcoming crazy fear. I mean, my goodness, the adversity that some of them have faced, I can't even imagine. Saying no to that imposter syndrome, which so many of us suffer from, and reinventing themselves when they needed to. I think of Lisa Weldon. She's my author friend whose husband came home and committed a term I'd never heard. Financial infidelity. What do? You're 56 and your husband says, we're losing everything. Yeah, you could give up. But you know what? These women have shown incredible resilience. She turned around and became an author and is now doing some incredible things. And I love that she has inspired and trailblazed for us all, shown us new ways to find ourselves and to find that meaning and to pull up our bootstraps and get to that next level, whatever it may be, right? Taking the initiative to do it. I'm hoping that this new journey I'm on is really going to help you find your me a little quicker. I mean, I told you the new name is all about and for you guys, because I really am trying to give you real actionable ways to put some of these things in progress. Now, none of us are perfect, right? And even these women I spoke with, they have all made mistakes, errors, wrong turns. We're all works in progress. But I do know we all need support, love, and cheerleaders for sure. So sometimes I'll get an email or a message from folks. And recently I got a message. I want to share this with you. And I was sitting there one day going through Facebook, and I get this message from a friend from high school. Now, I got to tell you, I was really blessed. I love my high school. My high school still remains to this day, decades later, one of the best experiences I ever had. And the class that I went to school with, probably one of the most genuine, caring, really good group of people I've ever met. I went to this great school called John Carroll High School in Bel Air, Maryland. Hello, my JC friends. I know some of you are listening. And even along this journey, they've been extremely supportive. So I get an email. An in-mail, I guess that's what you call it in Facebook, from a friend. And she, has gone through some really tough stuff in her life. And I just was shocked to get this message. She said she just wanted to reach out and tell me how proud she was of me for helping change people's lives. She said, keep up your amazing work and energy, and thank you for making a difference in my life. And then she ended with, God bless you and your family. Now, if I could, I would bottle that and spray it all over me every time I have doubt or monkey mind starts to work, right? We could all use a little bit of that secret sauce that someone gives us to help make us feel that, you know what, we're providing value. It's okay. What we're doing is a good thing. And, these things that we do sometimes, I even know in taking this journey, I'm going to share with something pretty interesting that I never thought I'd have an issue with. So I send out emails every week, and whenever I get an unsubscribe, it's like I have to go look at it. I want to know, do I know the person who stopped subscribing to my email? Who cares, right? But then I look and I'm like, oh my gosh, well, I guess it makes sense, because if I was getting emails about golf all day long, you're darn right I'd unsubscribe. So you can't look at these things personally. You just say, hey, you know what? They're not interested in what I have to say, but the people who are interested are the ones I'm building this community for. And those are the ones I'm going to focus on. Here's the thing. It's sort of like this. You can lead that horse to water, but you can't make them drink, right? Same thing here. I can bring the best guests here to share their stories. And it's only those who listen, change their mindset, and start to pursue their dreams that get the credit, right? Each of you who takes something said here, grabs a lesson, believes in themselves a little more, or for some of you, the mindset shifts you're going to take will drastically improve your life. I mean, for others, even like a small shift can make a real difference. And I'm here for all of it, cheering you on. It's that sort of feedback that it's not all about me, but about you and what you're doing for you. And that is how She Did It is all about. And boy, do we have some great guests coming up who are all about perseverance, strength, and defining their futures. I mean, I have CEOs, I have people that have been victims of national, international crimes or been wrongly accused of crimes. I have young CEOs, older CEOs, retired CEOs, editors of Fortune magazine, you name it. We've got some great guests coming up, and I can't wait to share each and every one with you. So I'm going to provide you and continue to provide you some of those real life stories and women. And in doing so, this first episode, I think I wanted to take a step back and do something I preach about a lot. I preach a lot about overcoming fear and putting yourself out there to help others. And so I'm going to dive all in. And don't get me wrong, this is not easy, but it's a part of the journey and really the energy behind the podcast. So I'm going to introduce myself and share some things about me that maybe you know, maybe you don't know. And you know what? It's all about making a connection and providing some of your vulnerabilities, failures, whatever it is. We've all had them. So I hope you find this a little bit interesting. I am a mom, of course, a wife. And I'd say if you could describe me, I say really I love a deep connection with others. I may not have 10,000 friends, but the ones that are in my circle are there, and they're there for a long time. I mean, I feel blessed to still have my best friend from high school. I feel blessed with some of my newer friends and my older friends and the friends I'm yet to meet. I think part of that and kind of keeping that circle a little small is I've learned that I'm something of an empath. And that's can be a really hard thing to live with because you really feel things on a different level. Sometimes people call me highly sensitive. Yeah, maybe, right? I have a friend that says, whenever she calls me out, whenever I ask these empathy check questions, I will at times say, how does that make you feel? Oh my goodness, what happened? Is he okay? How did that make them, react? And sometimes I'll get, hey, stop that, Bonnie. You're doing that empathy check again. And that's okay, because I've learned that's kind of who I am. And I try to get a hold on it sometimes, but it is hard. The real reason I think I find myself asking those questions is because I'm really trying to put myself in someone else's shoes so I can understand more about them. And some of the things that these women on the show have dealt with are so incredibly powerful. I don't want to put on their shoes. I really don't. I mean, I look across the screen and I think, my goodness, bless your heart. I can't imagine going through that. And my best honoring them is taking something they've learned or taking something that they've brought away and that I can use in my own life or maybe share that with someone else. So I was born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland by what I would call at the time, I guess, I don't know if we were lower middle class, regular middle class. I don't know. All I know is that it was a good place. The house was clean. We always had great food. My mom celebrated the holidays big. Now, my mom and dad, neither one of them graduated from high school. My mom went to the ninth grade. My dad went to the 11th, and then afterwards, he got out and joined the Marines. Now, when he got out of the Marines, and after my brother was born, my dad was working at Baltimore Gas and Electric, which was BG&E for my Maryland friends. They know exactly what that company is. And he came home one night and he told my mom that he wanted to go back to school. He wanted to go back, get his GED, and then go to college. And my mom 100% supported. Now, they didn't have any money at the time, right? I mean, it was really probably very, very tough. They had a newborn, and my dad's going to work. Sometimes he'd work overtime if there was bad weather, and now he's going to go back to school. But he did. He enrolled into Johns Hopkins, where it took him more than a decade, I think maybe even longer than that, to graduate. I'm thinking maybe it was like 16 years to finish. Well, after that, let me think, that must have been, I don't even really remember. So it had to be before I was graduating, before I was at any point, maybe 6 or 7. Around 12, we moved to Bel Air, Maryland. It was to the suburbs. It was really the boondocks to me. And I went to middle school there, then graduated from my wonderful high school, John Carroll High School, went on to college. Now, after college, I came home. And I got this job with the Baltimore Orioles. There was this contest back then called Miss Oriole. I had to submit this application, and then I had to go through this crazy interview process. And then once, if you got through that process and you were able to sort of get to the next step, the city had to vote via ballots in liquor stores. So it just shows you in how 40 years times have changed, right? So I had this poster with the 5 other contestants at the time in liquor stores, and that contest was sponsored by Miller Lite. Now, what's funny is my dad was a huge supporter of this. I mean, think about it. He was probably thinking, I want my daughter to win because I can go to all these games, right? And wouldn't it be really cool if she married a baseball player? All right. Crazy dreams, crazy thoughts at the time. But my friends say, and my family say, he went around and stuffed some of the ballot boxes at some of those stores. He very well may have. I don't know. But in any respect, I won, which was great. And it was probably the best summer of my life in 1987. So much fun. I mean, I just had a ball. I think that's probably where my love for marketing started, because I had to go to the games and I would have to go out on the field whenever it was first pitch time, had to go to these, they were called at the time bullpen parties, assign autographed posters. And then I got to go around to all of the different radio stations to talk about whatever sort of promos that the team was going to have, whether it's going to be like, I don't know, cooler night or whatever giveaway they would give. So much fun. So much fun. But it is also there where I met my husband. And yes, he was a baseball player. Now, there was this rule back then, and I was told the rule, you cannot fraternize with the players. And I had no problem with that because that was not my intention. I didn't even know I was going to get to meet them. Well, long story short, we started flirting in the outfield, and the next thing you know, we dated. We had to keep that under the radar. But I used to love, I'd sneak letters into his locker. I'd give it to the bat boy, and he'd take it in and leave him a little note, and vice versa. Or if he was sitting in the dugout and he looked up at me and kind of nodded his head, I'd get so excited and all the chills. What a great time. 22 years old, right? Very clueless at the time, but boy, was it fun. So we ended up getting married in 91. And then after I had my daughter and he retired from baseball, we moved to Long Island, where I went kicking and screaming. I was a Baltimore, at the time, a Bel Air, Maryland girl, right? I like my snowballs. I like the countryside. I like the hills. I was not interested in going to Long Island, but I did. And you know what? That place became my home. Probably the best decision ever. I had a really great career, and I'm still working. That's where my career grew. My daughter had a wonderful childhood and experience growing up there. So I was a spokesperson for a while for a utility company. And then I went on, got my MBA in banking and finance, and then worked at a publicly traded REIT for 17 years before switching over to a smaller company. I seem to like those companies that go from like small, mid to larger. It's really fun in that growth area. And been there now for about 4 years. I am for sure, I would say, a workaholic for sure. You know what? But I love what I do. I no longer apologize for it. I don't apologize anymore. And I don't think you should either, right? Don't apologize for who you are. I mean, I used to try and just kind of downplay it. But the women I've met this year and that I've spoken with made me realize you don't have to do that. Just be you. I mean, I always dreamed of one day writing a book, one day doing a TEDx talk, and one day having a podcast. And the pandemic is probably responsible for fast tracking all of that. I mean, let's face it, the pandemic, I don't think any of us ever wants to go through something like that again. It just caused the strangest things to happen. But it made me realize something, one thing for sure. Know your value. And if your value is no longer appreciated, find some place where it is. And I have. Like I said, mentioned, I'm at a good company now. Work at a great company now. And I've been blessed. I got to be honest, I've worked at all great places. Every place that I've been, I've loved my job. Truly have. There's not a place where I have not loved my work. I really feel blessed to do that. And I'm still married to that cute baseball player, 34 years in. My maid of honor, Carrie, always tells me that she handpicked him for me. I used to laugh. I'm like, I don't know what that means. Maybe she did, because there's sometimes I want to give her a call and say, can you pick me another one? But I like being married. Listen, it's not easy. You guys know it and you get it. But you share a history together. And I think life is much better with someone in it, at least from my perspective. But that is a different show, my friends. And my beautiful daughter, Holly, my only child, she's getting married in a few months. And the thought of having grandchildren is pretty cool. I visualize this spare room I have in the house, and I've got some grand ideas for what's going to make that a really cool space. We don't live in New York anymore, but we are now in South Carolina. So, a lot of changes over the last 5 years. And I'm sure many people who are listening have gone through that, especially after the pandemic. But I know that's one of the things I've learned from these women who are reinforced that if you don't change, you don't grow. And so another mantra there for you, and that's a big one, especially with some of the women that I've spoken with. Mentors are important. So I want to share with you a few of my biggest mentors. They came early in my life. My fourth grade teacher, Miss Fisher, she was really, really into writing. And I still remember having to use this textbook called The Magic Word. And I really enjoyed learning about the English language and sentence structures, which is very odd. But I think that's where my initial love for writing started. And then my eighth grade teacher at Bel Air Middle School named Mr. Helmkamp. He was very good in sending a little note home during one of my report cards telling my mom and dad that I had a special talent for writing and I should continue to nurture that talent. And, I would read that over and over. I think I saved it for years. In the moves, I've definitely lost it. And I've actually tried to reach him. So if anyone out there knows Mr. Helmkamp, I'm sure there's a few of you who are listening to this that also had him with me. And you know where he is? Let me know, because I definitely wanted to reach out to him and thank him for actually putting me on that trajectory, because the power of a mentor and the power of positive people who see something new at any stage in your life, it's the best, right? It's the best. We've all had someone that's done something nice for us or recognized or acknowledged one of our talents, and we all need that. We all need that affirmation. All right, now I'm going to talk about my biggest fear. My biggest fear, I have a scarcity fear. I never realized that until I was a little bit older. I'm afraid of losing financial independence. I don't know what this is from. Could be from my upbringing, because my mother would constantly tell me, don't ever depend on anyone. Don't ever depend on anyone financially. Always earn your own salary. Drilled into my head. Not a bad thing, a great thing. It was a great thing that she did, and I thank her for it every day. I memean, my mom went to the 9th grade. Where did she have that wisdom to tell me that, or to make sure, hey, Bon, I want you to go to school. You just used to say to me, you're college material. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew it was something good, right? And my mom not having that, or not having anyone to believe in her or encourage her, I do thank her for that. And talk about a mentor in that respect. I will say for sure she was a mentor in giving me that generational difference and telling me to find my own way. be whatever I want to be because you can do it. And my girlfriends are a big strength to me. I have some very special ones from different points in my life. I have one from a work that she and I had worked together years ago, and we will call each other and be there for each other whenever anything professionally is going on, personally too. But, you find people that you can speak with on different levels, whether it's a personal situation, whether it's a professional situation, whether it's a husband situation, whether it's an education situation. All of our girlfriends in that tribe we surround ourselves with, they're like little specialists that you have on the side that you can help each other and cheer each other along the way. And I think that scarcity fear, just going back and closing that's probably why I work so hard. Yeah, I sometimes try and figure that out. And I think that's a big driver. It's only taken me 60 years to realize that. And my best achievement, hands down, my daughter, definitely my greatest and best achievement and always will be. So that's a little bit of my story. I want to get back to those perspectives that I really want to call out for each of you. The 5 things I know now since starting this show. And these are directly from the guests that I've spoken with who've, survived, thrived, broken ceilings. So these 5 lessons I'm going to share with you are mantras, but also I would say drivers of success for sure. They're all the ones that I have bubbled up for me. And they're the good stuff, the stuff that's come to the top. And the ones that I have heard most consistently this year that I know 100% are some of the strongest, cut to the chase, aha, wows we all need to consider when we are facing challenges, decisions, and dreams. So I'm going to start right now. Here we go with number 1. Fear is powerful, but so is the potential that lies on the other side of it. That's a good one, right? I mean, over and over, each of my guests have reminded me fear is often the only thing standing between you and your greatest achievements. And research supports that. I mean, 70% of women admit to holding back from opportunities due to fear of failure, fear of self-doubt, fear of something. Could be someone not having a supportive partner, fear of a million things. Yet the women I've interviewed have proven that the magic happens when you step through that fear and not around it. I mean, take Marsha Clark's wisdom. So what if you fail? That simple question reframes the entire experience of risk. Look what she did. She went out there, right? Every day, super high profile. People were looking at her, making comments about her hairstyle. Crazy. But she got up and every day she went out there. And regardless of whatever was going to happen, she was trudging through. Each story I shared, I think this past year is really just proof that the fact that courage is not the absence of fear, but I think it's going forward with something in spite of it. So when we shift our mindset from what if I fail to what if I fly, then we unlock those doors to growth. I would say even innovation and maybe even a little joy. There was a recent LinkedIn survey where women who embrace calculated risks in their careers are 50% more likely to report higher job satisfaction and advancement. So here's the lesson. Don't let fear be your finish line. Let it be your starting block. And the women on this show have shown us that the most incredible journeys begin with a single brave step forward. So number 1 is get rid of that fear. Number 2, stop worrying about what others think. Worrying about what other people think is a really heavy burden. And that's one that holds us back from living authentically and pursuing our true passions. I mean, I don't know about you. I've recently read that book, The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. Highly recommend it. If you have not read it, read it. There's a good portion dedicated in there about worrying what other people think. And if you can let them think whatever they want, that's probably the most freeing thing you can do. Because the reality is most people really don't care. They're focused on their own lives, more so than judging ours. I think we probably overestimate how much others notice and care about our setbacks. No one really cares, right? I mean, we get so afraid of something called a spotlight effect, where we are so afraid that we are going to be looked at and embarrassed or judged, right? And a lot of times it's just our own imagination. The women I've interviewed have taught me that the only approval that you truly need is your own. So whether it's changing careers at 50, starting over after a setback, or simply just choosing a new path that feels right for you, the most important voice in the room is yours. A recent Gallup poll showed that, people who make life decisions based on their own values and goals rather than somebody else's expectations report 30% higher life satisfaction. And also, this is interesting, also resilience in the face of adversity. So listen, if you are dreaming about a new chapter, do not let the opinions of others dictate your story. Your journey is uniquely yours, and you don't owe anyone any explanation for chasing what sets your soul on fire. I'm going to say that again. You do not owe anyone an explanation for chasing what sets your soul on fire. The women on the show this year reminds us that true confidence really comes from within, and that's the kind of approval. That approval of yourself is what really lasts. So we went over, the first one is get rid of fear of failure. Number 2, stop worrying about everybody else and what they think. Here's number 3, find your tribe. Every single woman I have spoken with, in one way or another, agree with this, because surrounding yourself with people who really get you, they're not looking to change you, they get you. Or maybe they don't get you, but they still support you, is what you really need to surround yourself with. You want people who are going to support those ambitions and celebrate whoever you are. That's going to make the biggest difference in your journey. So many of my guests, especially the younger standouts, like Kaylee Pettit, she was the pilot, the Southwest pilot with her mom. And then there was another young girl, Shira Bernarde. I think that's how you're saying her name, Bernard. Anyhow, she's the CEO of DrinkCap. She started like 16. She was on Shark Tank. Both of them told me they had some problems with their friends and their social networks who may not have really understood their persistence and their drive. But you know what? When you find those who are supportive, it changes everything, right? So surround yourself with those people who really, really want to support you, because, if you have a strong network, research says you are probably 2.5 times more likely to achieve both your personal and your professional goals. So why not do that? Studies show that people with a big social support just report overall higher and happier levels of existence. So, and lower levels of stress. So find those who are probably more in tune with who you are, because life is short, right? We all deserve to live our dreams to the fullest. Trust those instincts as well when you're building and choosing that inner circle. Find your right people, and you'll know. You will definitely know. So we're going to go to number 4, never stop learning. That is another important one that most every single person I spoke with said. Either be curious, never stop learning. It's one thing that seems to have come through in most every conversation. I don't think it's just a cliche either. I think to me, it's really a game changer. I mean, life is always throwing us new challenges. And the entrepreneurs and professionals I've talked with, even those who've gone through trauma, show us that really that secret sauce is staying curious and open to growth, no matter where you are in your journey. I think it's important. It's important to do something that sets you on fire and makes you feel good about yourself. And a lot of time, learning will fuel that fire. I mean, I recently had a girlfriend from college, actually, my college roommate, going back to school at 60. She's going back for an MBA in social work. She wants to become a counselor. And you know what I say to her? Good for you. Good for you. Who knows if she'll stick with the entire program? I don't know. Does she know? Maybe. I don't know. But you know what? She is pushing through the fear. She is going back and bringing out that old muscle of school. I know at 60 to go back to school, I mean, that's not easy, right? I mean, just think about it. Just getting back into that discipline and into the grade mentality and the test mentality. But she's learning and growing. And that, to me, at any stage in our lives, is truly, truly something powerful and something that I think keeps us relevant as well. The more we can learn and stay engaged, the more we can relate to all generations, and the more we have more opportunities. I mean, people on my show have reinvented themselves, definitely more than once. So it all comes down to, what hunger you have and what hunger you have to keep growing. So your best self, could be really right around the corner. At least that's how I see it. So keep trying to find that through perpetual learning. So we said number one is get away, stop the fear, stop the whole fear cycle and the monkey mind. Number two is who cares? Let them think whatever they want to think. Number three is find that tribe. Find those people who are going to inspire, support, and lift you up. Number four, never stop learning. Number five, growth begins where comfort ends. Dare to try what feels impossible, okay? It's sort of like courage over comfort, change is growth, that sort of mentality. So I'm going to say it again. Growth begins where comfort ends. This one is probably one of the closest that is to my heart because you know what? I don't like change a lot. I like when I get comfortable, when I like having my holidays the way they are, or when I like, living in my home, or I like a little bit of a routine, that change can sometimes be scary because it is the unknown, right? But let's face it, folks, real transformation happens the moment we step outside those boundaries. And every single guest who shared her journey has absolutely faced moments when the next step felt horribly intimidating, scary, impossible. But you know what? Despite that, they moved forward because they discovered the strengths and those opportunities they never would have found otherwise. And I don't think it's about being fearless or perfectly prepared. I think that's another thing I've learned. These guests say to me, you need to go for that next step, even if you're not ready. Take that step, even if it's shaky, because you got to push yourself out of those zones because it's going to make you more resilient and more creative and fulfilled in the long run. Impossible is often just unfamiliar territory until you try. And then it becomes familiar, just like anything else. Growth doesn't come from playing it safe. We know that. Everyone knows that. And I would say in our generation, probably more so than in our parents' generation, we see that. We see that and it's important. And I think our children will see that even more. So that's a good one to embrace. So I want to go over and recap all of these items, these 5 threads that all of my guests have said, okay? Number 1, stop being afraid. Number 2, stop worrying about what people think. Number 3, find your tribe. Number 4, never, ever, ever stop learning. And number 5, just dare to try what feels impossible. Now I want to pause for a moment. Let's pause right here. Think about this. What if you truly lived these 5 lessons every single day? What if you did that? What if you faced your fears head on? You stopped worrying about what a friend of a friend said about your dream to start a new business and instead surrounded yourself with your tribe. What if you committed, you know what? I'm going to learn something new today. I'm going to take a new class on Udemy. I'm going to read a new book. I'm going to try a new game. I'm going to try, sign up for some sort of a new class. And you dared to step boldly outside that comfort zone. I know it's hard. I know it's not easy. What would your life look like a month from now? Maybe a year from now? How much closer could you get to the version of yourself you've always dreamed of becoming? And not just that, just imagine the confidence you'd build, right? Just imagine how you'd feel better about yourself, the opportunities you'd create, and maybe even the joy you'd feel knowing you are living fully and authentically. It's a ripple effect. That's how I see it. It's a ripple effect of a sort of growth that you will be able to now come about doing some new things that are going to spur other things and create other things. And it's sort of like that 20-mile sort of keep marching, something good's going to happen. And it's going to touch every corner of your life. I mean, it could touch your relationships, your career, and your overall sense of purpose. So picture these possibilities. If you did, maybe you'd move through challenges with a little bit more confidence. Maybe you could brush off some setbacks and instead replace it with a little resilience and chase opportunities that truly once felt out of reach. Maybe you'd find yourself surrounded by people who lift you up. Those who are inspired by new ideas, and then maybe they're even energized by the risk you're willing to take. And here's the most important thing. Maybe you'd wake up every day knowing you're not waiting for permission because you are giving it to yourself. Let's make all of those maybes absolutely. If you did these things a little bit every day consistently, you'd absolutely see a change. And here's my challenge. I want you to start today. Pick just one of these lessons. You don't have to pick all 5 of them. Just pick one and put it into practice. Then maybe add in the others over time. It's taking that first step toward a goal that probably scares the bejesus out of you, or reaching out to someone who inspires you, or simply giving yourself grace to learn something new and not being afraid to, and realizing I'm not perfect. Whatever happens, if I'm not good the first time, I'll try it again. I'll try it again and again, because each small move you take is a vote for that person you want to become. And remember, change doesn't happen overnight, and it's definitely not linear, right? But every day you choose growth over comfort, you're going to be rewriting your story and taking control of whatever it is you want at the end of the day. And if you're thinking, yeah, that sounds great, Bonnie, but where do I even start? You're not alone. Every woman who's joined me on this show has had that moment of doubt. The difference is they didn't let it stop them. They lean into the discomfort. They ask for help when they need it, and they keep showing up for themselves day after day. That's the real secret, because the progress, it's not about making giant leaps. It's about consistent, courageous steps, even when the path is not clear. Sometimes those first steps feel impossibly small. I know it. Starting out on my podcast, I didn't know where to. The technical side, I'm a train wreck when it comes to that stuff sometimes. Writing a book, I didn't know where to start. Right? I learn from others. I start researching. I read how other people do it. I start making questions. I start reaching out to people. We are at a time and place in the digital landscape. We can access anything we want, right? We have so much more support than people did 100 years ago. We need to start leveraging that, especially when it comes to learning. And maybe you just really need to have a open conversation, really honest conversation with yourself about what you really want. The women I've interviewed, they didn't wake up one morning suddenly fearless or fully equipped for anything they did. They built their confidence by taking action, one small decision at a time. Obstacle comes in the way. Let's figure out a way around it. Don't just stop. Let's figure out how to get from point A to point B and to that North Star that you create for yourself. Every time they did, they proved to themselves that they were capable of more than they ever thought possible. And that's probably another consistent thread with all of these women. Do you think that Kara Golden thought she was going to be a beverage producer? No, that wasn't even in her background. She worked in tech. She never worked in the food or beverage industry. She had to learn that from scratch. It all started from creating healthy water in her kitchen. If she can do it, and she gives us the steps on how she did it, you can do it too, because they definitely looked at what their North Star was, and any setbacks or any obstacles that came into their path, they made it into comebacks, and they turned doubts into determination. It's so easy to kind of internalize the limitations that others place on us. I'm just as guilty of it. I've done it many, many a time. But here's the truth. That only voice that really matters, that only one in this entire universe that matters, is your own. So start speaking to yourself differently. The guests on This Is How She Did It, they have strong internal voices and are proof that when you stop letting fear of judgment or failure dictate your path and your choices, you really do open up yourself to a whole other world of possibilities. They're going to continue to remind us that courage is not the absence of fear. I've said it before. It's that willingness to move forward in spite of it. As we step into my new chapter, my new rebrand, my new name of This Is How She Did It, I want you to remember one thing. I want you to remember that you're not just a listener. You're part of a movement. I'm creating a community here. I feel it. We're building, some really great women and some really great momentum where people cheer each other on. They share their struggles and their wins, and those particular struggles, wins, and support are going to lift each and every one of us higher. I met someone a few years ago when I decided I wanted to do these podcasts. I actually was on a podcast with Amy Lyle, who's now become one of my friends, spunky, energetic, amazing woman. And she said something to me that I use over and over again because it was that powerful. She said to me, when one of us rises, we all rise. And you know what? That's how we have to look at things. And I think that's a great mantra. I think that is perfect for the show. I think that's perfect for you. You know what? We want to celebrate every victory, no matter how small. We want to create a a space where people can learn. We want to look at setbacks where they are not seen as setbacks, but set them up for comebacks, right? And where vulnerability is a sign of strength, not weakness. And every single woman I have on this show has all of those things. So I want you to dream big, my friends. I want you to act boldly. And I want you to get ready to meet the most powerful version of yourself. The best is clearly yet to come. And This Is How She Did It promises more stories, more lessons, and more actionable formulas to help you get closer to the real you. This is your invitation. I am personally inviting you to discover your dream with me, the version of yourself that's bold, that's limitless, and unapologetically authentic. I want you to take this journey together. Let's do it together, folks. Because every time you choose courage over comfort, community over isolation, and growth over stagnation, you're not just changing your life. You're inspiring everyone around you. The last few moments I've shared with you how I've done it, how the women I've spoken to have done it over the last year, and now I want you to join me for a new, uplifting, powerful show. This is how she did it. And this is how you can too. If you want to learn more about our guest, check out the show notes. And please take a moment to write a positive review about the show on Apple or Spotify, because this is the best way for bold women to find this show. To write a positive review, scroll down to the bottom of the podcast and click where it says write a review. In return, you get good karma and a shout out on a future episode. Until next time, my friends, keep pushing through that fear and making your future yours. You've got this.
The Agile brand.